Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today it is my great honor and privilege to welcome one of the world's greatest figure skating champions in history. He won back-to-back silver medals in the 1984 and 1988 Olympics, 4 silver medals and a bronze in the World Championships, and then he won the World Championship in 1987, and if that weren't enough, he won the Canadian National Championships 8 times from 1981 to 1988. What a thrill to welcome a true Canadian icon, the incomparable Brian Orser. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a real pleasure, Harvey.
Is it true that you started skating as a toddler and that you performed your first skating carnival at 6 years old?
I started skating like every other Canadian boy. I was, with the intention of playing hockey. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so my mom just wanted to kind of get me out there with the other 4 so she could sit back for at least an hour, relax. We were all kind of in this arena, and it gave her a little bit of time, but the intention was for hockey, and I just kind of took to the figure skating, and I like to skate fast, and I like to jump and do all those things that a kid likes to do, and I just took to it. So I loved it, and took every opportunity that I could find to skate, whether it was outdoor a lake or on a puddle, whatever I could, anything that was frozen, I'd skate on it. So yeah, and then we started doing our little club shows and things when I was 6 or whatever it was, and that was a chance to show off, I guess.
Were your parents the typical pushy stage parents that we hear about so often?
No, my parents were kind of like the model parent for an athlete, I would have to say. I mean, they were supportive. I remember one time my parents were doing an interview with like an NBC or a CBS, one of the big US networks, and it was prior to an Olympics. And I remember they made a statement, "You must be very proud of your son, Brian." And my dad, his immediate comment was, I'm proud of all my kids. So, and he didn't leave it at that. He went through everything. Janice did this, and Mary Kay did this, and Bobby did this, and Michael did this, and Brian happens to figure skate. So, and I was in the kitchen listening to this interview, which made me so proud and happy. And I get emotional now even talking about it.
I can see why. I find it amazing that when you met Doug Lee, the coach who took you all the way through your amateur career, he was only 19 years old.
He was just a kid. And, to me, he was the coolest guy, because to me, he seemed like an adult, but he drove a red Corvette. And that was, pretty groovy for that guy who is now my teacher to be driving a Corvette. And he was very ambitious. He picked Aurelia to be the sort of the center kind of nucleus of where he wanted to teach of the area. So from Aurelia, you could get students from Huntsville, you could get students from Barrie, you could get students from Penetanguishene, from that whole area, Wasaga Beach, Collingwood. So he was very clever to kind of start that sort of central spot in really rural Ontario, and to pull from that. And so a lot of great skaters came from that area, and he started his school, and so I started it with him. And so it's cool, and it's still thriving, that school, still doing very well.
You are often referred to as Mr. Triple Axel because in 1979 at the Junior Canadian Championships, you were the first junior to land the triple axel in competition. And then at the 1984 Olympics in Sarajevo, at the age of 23, you became the first skater to land the triple axel in Olympic competition. Whose idea was it that you were not just going to win, you were going to be a trailblazer?
Well, as a skater, you kind of go through the jumps in a particular order. You do, now it's a little bit different, but back then you would start with, the easier jumps, and then so you got through to a triplet, which was, right before a triple axel. So then it was, well, let's just do triple axel. I mean, I really maybe just young and naive. I don't know. I just thought that's the next thing. Let's do it. And even without even the idea that had never been done before, I just wanted to do it. And so I did. And there were a lot of things I didn't really even pay attention to. For instance, when I went to my first Olympics in '84, I came second, but I had no idea that we had never had anything higher than bronze for a Canadian man at the Olympic Games. So maybe it was best I didn't know that information. I don't know. But just a lot of those things I really didn't pay attention to. I just like to skate and jump and twirl, and it wasn't about breaking records, but apparently I did.
You were also the first man to land 2 triple axels in one program, as well as the first to do it in combination. Does it amaze you now when you look back that you were able to accomplish all of that so young?
I don't know. I liked the axel jump, first of all. So, I mean, that helped. It was kind of nice to be the first, but I was told, like, hey, you're the first one to do this in combination. Oh, I guess I was. And then it would be like, hey, you're the first one that did two in one program. Oh, geez, I guess I was. So, I just like to challenge myself and just push to the next thing. And I mean, and I love doing that jump. So, that's our secret.
Well, you really do like to push yourself, Brian. After not doing the triple axel since 1988, you did it again at the 2000 Winter Goodwill Games, and you got a silver medal. We're so proud of you. It's incredible what you've done.
Well, you know what? That was kind of a cool challenge for me, because I just turned 40 and I hadn't done it for 10 years. And at that stage, 10 years after my Olympic days, I was touring and having a great time, and 10 years went by fast. And then you gain some weight and you lose a few jumps. And so I took on the challenge to learn. I was determined I'm going to do this jump again. So it took about a year of training and Pilates and yoga and changing my eating habits, and getting on the ice and trying to train this jump again. So that was actually, for me, one of the most exciting triple axel stories, was to do it at the age of 40. And I tell my kids that now too, when I'm teaching them, and they're struggling with their triple axel and they're 19. I'm like, hey buddy, you know what? I was 40 and I did it. So you can do it.
Well, and you're too modest to say you didn't just do it at age 40, you won the Canadian Open in Ottawa.
That was another one, because we did have some nice little fun challenges as a professional, and there were a lot of competitions that were developed. And it was during that time, there was I believe there was like a baseball strike, and there was not a lot on television for sports. So figure skating was it. And then we also had the Tanya Nancy situation. So a lot of people started changing their focus to figure skating. Then a lot of people got hooked on it. So all these things, the stars and the moon all lined up for figure skating. And there were all these different shows and different competitions. So I was at the right time. So I got to participate in all the competition. The Canadian Open was one of them. And I wanted to do well, because I didn't win a lot of professional skating competitions. So this one, again, I got myself into really good shape, and I became fit, and I was determined to win it. So I guess, once I kind of set my mind to doing something, whether it's the Goodwill Games in a triple axel or the Canadian Open, to win, got to win some professional competition, that once I was determined to do it, and I did it.
Around 1980, your skating became not only technically perfect, but dazzling. And you have credited choreographer Ushi Kessler for this. Can you tell us a bit about your collaboration with her?
Well, the great thing about Ushi was it was not so much that she was a choreographer, but she helped me develop my own style. And she also helped me develop a sense of an edge and an effortless flow to my skating. So it wasn't a matter of going fast. It was a matter of being efficient on the ice. It was a matter of where my body would be and allowing my blades to run beautifully. Then you have a foundation, and then you can be artistic, and you can and have a sense of yourself when you're skating. And so for me, there were a lot of things that happened because of Ushi. So I developed the foundation. she gave me the sort of the creative liberty to do whatever I wanted to do and to understand movement. So, and you have to remember, you know, when I was a young boy from Pentatang, to go out and have music on and to move was awkward for me. And I was shy and I really didn't like it. Like I didn't like those interpretive classes, and I'd always kind of try to sneak off the ice because I really did not like doing it. And then there was just a point when I was maybe 19 or 20 that I don't know, there was a lot of things that changed in my life, and I don't know, everything's kind of opened up, and I just became free, and I just understood movement, and when I was developing new programs, I could actually do the choreography. She just sent me in a direction and inspired me to, whether it's like a Michael Jackson song or if it was classical music, because I wasn't really well versed in classical music. And then she introduced me to just a very broad range of classical music that I could move to. I could do the fast stuff. I could do a march. I could do a slow piece. I could do a cello. It was really quite liberating.
What an amazing combination. Now, in 1985, you won your 5th national title with a string of perfect 6s, the highest marks given in the history of the Canadian Championships. And then you went to the Worlds, and many people don't realize this, but you had pneumonia and you still competed and you came home with a silver medal. Brian, how did you do that?
Yeah, 84 was, the end of the era of Scott Hamilton. So he was the Olympic champion. He was a 4-time world champion. He had retired. Now I was the heir apparent and it was supposed to be my turn. So there was nothing that was going to get in the way of that. So I do remember being at home, my mother and my grandmother taking care of me, having doctors over, having to sleep with my, kind of almost upside down to try to get some of the fluid out of my lungs, and then fly to Tokyo because that's where the championships were, and then have constant therapy while I was there. But I was fit. I was strong before this, and then I got a little bit better, but I was able to compete. It wasn't my absolute best. It was another silver medal, but
Listen, I think it's amazing. And then 1987 was an incredible year for you, Brian. You won every competition you entered that season, and then you won the World Championships. Tell us what it felt like to finally win that gold medal after all those silvers.
Actually, I didn't even realize that I had won everything that year. Okay,
yeah, you did. I researched it.
I bet you did. So, yeah, it was. It was one of those things, it was the championships were in Cincinnati, and I remember literally getting off the plane. It was a little puddle jumper that we took there, and so you don't go to a gate. You get off, on the tarmac, and you walk into the terminal. And I just remember getting off the plane, and it was sunny, and it was like a beautiful spring day. It's this time. It's a March event usually, and springtime can be lovely. And it was one of those beautiful days. And I just remember just having a good feeling right then and there. And we went to the hotel, and then we next day started practicing, and I could not put a step wrong. And I knew, I really knew the outcome, what that was going to be. I knew I was going to win, and that was the first time I was in the top 3 in compulsory figures, which was always a bit of a challenge for me, but I learned how to do them. I had to learn, and they're not the easiest thing, but and you have a certain reputation of not being able to do them, and it's a sport where we're being judged, and then there's literally the Zamboni wipes away all the evidence, right? So it's not like you're watching a free skate where somebody, if they fall on a triple axel, they fall and the world sees it. But in compulsory figures, when you're laying down certain figures literally on the ice, and then they're being judged and then being cleaned away, it's up to the discretion of those judges. So sometimes there was, there can be some, manipulation going on with some of the things. But anyway, I had to learn to do them so well that they had to put me up there. So I came 3rd that year in compulsory figures. And I won, actually, this is probably one thing you don't know, is that of the 3 figures, I won the last figure, and I'm the only Canadian man in the history of men's skating to ever win a figure. So
Incredible.
there, you didn't know that, did you?
I didn't know that. Now all your fans know it.
Right?
At the 1988 Olympics in Calgary, you were the only world champion that Canada had. So you were given the honor of carrying the Canadian flag in the opening ceremonies. That was quite a moment for you and, of course, for Canada. Was that one of the big highlights of your life, Brian?
It was really incredible. The whole team had to go to the ceremony where they announced who it was going to be. So everybody's kind of looking around to see who it's going to be. And they called my name, and it was really a beautiful moment. And my parents were there, and that was pretty special. I mean, I just, even still after all these years, however long it's been, it's still, when I see those moments, like I visualize that day and my parents being there, and they're not with me anymore. So it's quite emotional.
It sure
but
is.
It's wonderful.
We were all so proud of you. You know, Brian, there was a lot of pressure on you at the 1988 Olympics because you were Canada's national hero and you were up against your arch rival, Brian Boitano from the United States. It was the Battle of the Bryans. Tell us what you were going through during that nonstop media frenzy.
Well, it's one of those things that, you know, having the Battle of the Bryans was really, it was a great thing because I think we're both very nice people. We're both very, we're good sports. We're doing it for the right reasons. We can be competitive, but it's not nasty. And we have the same name. So it kind of like, it was the perfect storm. So you have these great athletes. It was balanced. Who had the most, you know, it was completely balanced the number of championships that I had won and that he had won. I was going in as a reigning world champion, but he was world champion the year before that. So, but because the media, and there was so much hype that they developed the Battle of the Bryans, and people remember that. So it was really a great thing for both of us to move forward to, you know, we kind of laid out everything that, you know, when you write a script for something, it was, you know, he was second in the figures, I was third. I was first in the short, he was second. And it came down to the free program. He was first, I was second, but we both skated well. So it wasn't like somebody messed up and the other person won. It's like we both put it, and it was a nail biter, and everybody was sitting on the edge of their seats, literally. And it could have gone either way. So it was a 5-4 split, and it went in his favor. So,
well, can I get technical for a minute? And I want you to tell me if I'm correct about this, because I did my research. A lot of people, I don't think, realize that you got the silver and Boitano got the gold because of one judge. It was a 5-4 judges split in the free skate. Boitano beat you by 0.1 of a point. And although you had the higher artistic marks, which is what breaks a tie today, 1988 was the last year that the technical mark broke the tie, and that's why he got the gold. Am I right about that?
You are dead on. So accurate. And any one of those 4 judges, so they had us literally at a tie. So 5-9, 5-8, and then for him. So it's the same total because I had 5-8, 5-9. And so then, like you said, the technical gives that ordinal. So that judge is going to say, I've got you in first place. So, but I had more actual real first placements than he did. So he had 1, and then he had 4 ties, and I had 3 that were actual first placements. So, you know what? It's, you know, that's one of those things that can make you crazy for the, you know, the next 20 years of your life. And it really did make me crazy for a long time, because then I did the whole what if thing. I thought, well, what if, you know, I had the Danish judge had me second, but what if in the draw there was a Finnish judge? Because I know the Finnish judge really liked me the whole season, but she wasn't drawn to do the Olympics. Or what if, you know, whatever country, if that person had been drawn, but it wasn't. So, you know, I can still tell you exactly which countries had me second, you know, but I can tell the ones that had me first too. So, but then you have to get over that. You can't do the what if thing. What if? When I have time now, and perspective is a wonderful thing. I know that I did the best I could. I trained hard. I didn't give up, and it was a really great night of skating when it came down to it. I mean, it was a great night of skating.
It was drama. It was real nail-biting, jaw-dropping drama.
Yeah.
Now, I was interested to learn that going into the 1988 Olympics, you worked with a sports psychologist on visual imagery. What does that involve?
I worked with Dr. Peter Jensen, and it was really about, I mean, a lot of people think of sports psychology as, you know, self-talk and, you know, I'm the best and I'm this and I'm that. And this was not so much, it was more about everyday training. Every day you have to be prepared and you have to do your work and you have to have your goals and you have to, you know, not just competition readiness. It's like, it's every day, how you train, how you get the best out of every single day. When I got to the competition, I knew certain things that I needed to do in order to go out and skate my best. I didn't want to chance everything. I didn't want to roll the dice. I wanted to all year tick off the boxes and know that I've done all these things properly. I had a routine for the day that I knew if I did these things, I would skate well. And it all started with, you know, trying to remember one great performance in my past and then just figuring out what I did that day, what I ate, how, you know, who I was with, who I spoke to, what was my arousal level for a particular program. Like a short program is like this, is like a sprint. So my arousal level would be at a 9. How do I get myself to a 9? Well, we had ways. For my free program, because it's longer and it's more endurance, I needed to be at an 8 or a 7.5, perhaps. And he'd say, where are you? I said, you know what? I'm at a 10 right now. We got to come down. So he knew how to do that. I wanted to know that when I went out to compete, I would do the best I could.
I've only got one more Brian Boitano question. You starred in the film. You starred in the film Carmen on Ice with Brian Boitano and Katarina Witt in 1990. Do you have any contact with Brian Boitano now?
Yeah, you know what? I follow him on Instagram. He follows me on Instagram. Sometimes we, you know, send little comments back and forth to each other. Whenever I do see him, it's great. He's a wonderful man. We're not the type of friends that are, you know, I don't call him on his birthday or anything like that. But when we do see each other, we have the utmost respect. He's proud of me for what I've been doing as a coach. We have a lot of things in common, and we look back at that time of the Battle of the Bryans and how we endured that was really incredible, because like you said, it was so stressful, and having the Olympics in Canada and everything reminded me of the Olympics. You know, even when, you know, Petro-Canada used to fill up your car and you'd get a glass or a wine glass or a mug or whatever it was. And every time I'd fill up my car on my way, because I did a lot of driving back then from rink to rink to rink, and I'd have to stop and fill up my car, and I'd have to get this Olympic mug from Petro-Canada. I was like, oh my God, if I hear one more thing about the Olympics, I'm gonna scream. So, and then I'd, you know, go to my hometown and I would go to the corner store or whatever, and they'd be like, go for the gold, Brian, go for the gold. All amazing intentions, but I couldn't get away from it. You know, going through an airport, just all great intentions. Go for the gold, Brian, go for the gold, you can do it. And then get my gas and get my mug. And it was a lot. It was a lot for Brian as well, but we were grateful that we had this Battle of the Bryans. We really are.
Yeah, it was really, I don't think it's been repeated in history. After the 1988 World Championships, where you won the silver, you turned professional. You made your first television special, Skating Free, which was filmed on the frozen surface of Lake Louise. You toured with Stars on Ice on and off for close to 20 years. Did you like touring?
Yes, I did. I loved touring. There were a couple of things that kind of got me through. I mean, I was disappointed about the Olympics, and it was hard for me to be able to watch anything Olympic. Like I didn't watch any of those performances. I didn't watch my long program for at least 10 years after Calgary. And so when you jump into a Stars and Ice show, kind of like you literally are running off and joining the circus. And it was fun. I was with some great people, and we were creative, and we were selling out, and we were skating in front of audiences, and I love that life. And I always said I would just do it for 5 years, and then I would, gosh, I mean, I don't know what I would do, but I thought 5 years, that should be enough. Well, you know, literally 17 years later, I was wrapping it up, but I was like, where did the time go? And, you know, the income was amazing. I got to travel the world. I was with great people. The fans were wonderful. We were creative. It was a good life.
Well, I remember seeing you several times in Stars on Ice, and the climactic moment was always when you did the backflip. That was pure magic. But I understand you stopped doing the backflip after you suffered a wrist injury in 2007.
Yes, but you know what, here's a little secret. The backflip was actually one of the easiest things to do. Because when I was a kid, I mean, I'm very active and, you know, just running around and lots of energy, and I have to get attention. So, you know, doing backflips, and whether it was in gymnastics or into a swimming pool or, you know, wherever, I was always doing backflips. So to do it on the ice, I mean, now I've got all this momentum, and I have extra weight at the bottom with my skates. All you have to do is just pick and go that way.
It sounds so easy.
It was so easy because and as I was getting a little bit older and a little bit heavier, it was harder for me to do triples when I was in the shows, and I needed to get, you know, I needed to have that audience in the palm of my hand. So, you know, the backflip saved the day. You know, I'd go out and do a backflip. I didn't have to worry about the triplets or anything. So, but I did have a bad wrist injury, but actually I wasn't doing a backflip. I was actually teaching. I started teaching, and I literally just lost my balance. I mean, that's where you realize that, you know, it's a pretty difficult thing, the skating, and the ice is slippery. And I just fell down, and it just shattered my wrist, and had to have it all surgically put back together again. But that was it for the backflips.
Can we talk about your costumes for a minute? You always looked so dazzling. Did you have a lot to do with choosing your costumes?
Yes. Not so much at the beginning. You know, I was very naive, and you know, I remember one time as I was a novice, and I really liked the bag that if you went shopping at Eaton's, like there was a design on the bag that I really thought it was cool. So I had to have like a costume made with that design. I mean, that's really how simple it was for me. But then I got a little older and a little more sophisticated, and then I tapped into some really great people who could build the costumes properly, and a designer from CBC. She was a former skater too and a former judge, so she helped come up with some designs. So that was fun. I mean, I love the process of the costume. I love the process of getting out on the ice and practicing in a new costume for the first time. And you know, you kind of feel special. It's like putting on that new tie or a new suit, or, you know, it has a good feeling, right?
Do you have a favorite costume?
Yeah, I did in 1986. I did a short program, and it was a Hungarian dance number 6. And it was a beautiful, because the woman who built my costumes was Hungarian. So she built this beautifully. It was a kind of a leathery vest thing, but it was tasteful. That sounds kind of weird right now, but it was a tasteful leather vest. But it had embroidery on the back. It was hand embroidered. And there was a lot of time that was put into this. But she was so excited to do this because it was part of her heritage and her culture. So that was one of my favorite, because it was so stylish, and I did love that. And my '88 Olympic free program, the red one.
In 2005, you became skating director at the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club, and in 2006, you became a full-time coach. What made you decide to start coaching?
You know what? Like I said, I'd been 17 years on tour, and I remember one time at the end of my touring days. And I remember standing on the ice for an opening number, and they had these spotlights and you'd see your silhouette on the ice. And I remember standing there kind of going, oh, like kind of humdrum and just like, So I was like, I don't know if this is for me anymore. It was like, it's easy to get trapped in, you know, the income is great and the friends and the lifestyle is kind of fun. But I needed to get into it. I needed a big boy job. And so literally like a week after that moment I had on the ice, I got this call from the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club that they were looking for a new director and would I be interested? And at that time I lived in Ottawa. So I was like, I don't think so. So then Tracy Wilson called me back and she said, well, what if I do it with you? And I was like, sure, because she's a great friend. I love Tracy. So I thought, well, the two of us can go into this blind. And it's kind of, you know, when you're doing something adventurous like that, if you're with someone, you can kind of hold each other's hand, make mistakes, or, you know, pursue. We had the same dreams. We had the same sense of community that we felt that the club needs and is. So I was like, heck, let's just do it. Let's do it. So I just packed up and I moved from Ottawa back to Toronto and we started fresh. You know, it was kind of a clean slate. And a lot of the skaters had left with the former coach that was there. And we got to rebuild from the ground up.
And are you the kind of coach that you would have liked to have?
Oh, that's a great question. And I've never been asked that. And the answer was yes, I would.
I think so too.
I love what my coach did for me. And he was very motivating. He was not much of a scientist when it came to skating. And perhaps I was not much of an athlete that could follow that bouncing ball of science. You know what I mean? I need to be experiencing it and making a mistake. You know, if I do something a certain way, I'm going to be sideways. Well, that's not right. So I'll try it the other way and I'll stay vertical. So, and skating, as we know, vertical is good. So, but now that I feel that I know so much about skating and I'm watching and collaborating with Tracy and some other coaches too, that I do wish I had that when I was skating. I have a very good sense of timing and planning for these athletes. I know when to back off. I know when to come in. I know I can be really tough, and I can get someone can make me angry pretty fast. So the kids know the buttons to push, and they know that I'm at that point. And that's when they know to either back off or they know to take that next step and take it up to another level, because, you know, Mr. Orser is going to lose it. So but I think, and I needed that when I was skating, I needed someone to be tough on me. And I'm very organized with the kids. I know exactly when they're going to get their costumes done. Quite often I'll help design the costume. I know when they need to have their music organized and what they're going to skate to and what direction we're going and why we're doing it. I'll know when they have to start doing their run throughs. I know when they have to take a break. You know, there's times when we're in a midweek, 2 weeks before a big competition, I'll say, you know what, you need to go take a break. You need to go home because you're exhausted and you need to go take a break. And I'm going to see you tomorrow, you know? And they're just like, wow, okay, you know?
I have heard you say that standing behind the boards is almost more nerve-wracking than being out there skating yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, it is.
Why?
Because, well, you once that door closes behind them, there's nothing else I can do. I mean, we've done all our work. We've been doing our training. Every kid is different. Not every athlete or skater is wired for competition. And that's what makes this so hard. So you could be trained. You could tick off all the boxes of what you need to do. But if you're not wired, and some people are just not wired for that something could possibly go wrong. There are so many times I've seen skaters who are so good in practice, and they're just not wired for competition. And not everybody's going to learn that, you know, and it doesn't matter what sports psychologist you have, not everybody will learn that. So that's what makes, you know, that beautiful package when you've got the person who can compete and step up and rise to the occasion, especially, but if you have to be trained in order to do that, so you're not going to roll the dice. And so, but as a coach standing behind the boards, that door closes and it's out of your hands, you know? So as an athlete, you're in control. You know, I know that I can do the next element. I know that I'm trained. I know that I'm wired to do it, but there's some athletes who are not. So it's stressful. And that's why I get very active behind the boards. I know every step. I know every part of the choreography. And, you know, when they land that big jump, the one that, you know, the competition is hinging on, I mean, I jump. Like, I'm like behind the boards and you can see me jump. I'm not trying to grandstand. I'm not trying to steal the thunder, maybe a little bit, but I'm, you know, but I'm trying to, that energy is, I feel the energy is going out to them, you know?
Well, when you talk about the whole package, in 2006, you started coaching South Korea's Yoona Kim. She took the bronze at the 2007 World Championships, the gold at the 2009 World Championships, and the gold medal at the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. Were you surprised that you were as good a coach as you were an athlete?
Yes, I was surprised. This was all new. I could teach, and I'd been around doing seminars and I'd been teaching, but I was never coaching, and those are two different things. And I know some people people are good coaches, but not good teachers, and vice versa. I know a lot of people, you know, you want to keep them close, the good teachers, like a really good teacher, but they're not a great coach because they might get nervous. They may not know how to manage properly. They try to control too much of the competition. You have to let the kid be the kid. Let the athlete be the athlete. And when you have a number of kids at that high level, you have, I mean, it's tough because I don't do the cookie cutter way. You know, it's not my way or the highway. It's, I'm going to do what's best for you. And I'm going to do what's best for you. And I'm going to do the best with you. And it's like, you know, it's a lot to manage, but that's how you have to be. And so when I started with Yoona, I didn't even know this new system. Like, I skated with the 6.0 system. And then after, you know, the 2002 Olympics, and there was a big drama and in the judging, and there was the cheating, and then they changed the whole system. So I didn't know this point system. I didn't know the value of a triple Lutz, or, you know. So I remember at my first competition, one of my first competitions with Yoona, we were at the World Championships 2007, and she goes out and does a clean short program. We're sitting at the kiss and cry, and the score comes up, and it was a world record. And it was 72 points, which to me, I had no clue what that meant. So she does a double clutch on her pearls. I do a double clutch on my pearls because I'm just following what she's doing, because I was like, is that good? And I should probably know better. But I was introduced to this new system, and I was introduced to, I mean, and she did have a very tough mom, but the mom did know her daughter. The mom knew all the buttons to push with her and how far to push her. And she was very knowledgeable. So, and I've always given her mom a lot of credit for what she did for her daughter. And then we kind of finessed the other side of it to make skating fun, and training was fun. If she, you know, if I'd asked her when she first started with us, you know, to say, you know, do you think you're ever going to like training? She would think I was crazy. The answer would be no. But at the end, she really did like training. You know, she liked skating. She loved it. And that's why she just blossomed the way she did, because she really fell in love with skating, really for the first time. Maybe, you know, when you first start skating, you love it. But then you get competing and it becomes a job, you know, which it is always a job. But she kind of got back into loving skating again. So I think that's what we helped her find.
You coached Javier Fernandez to win the bronze at the 2018 Winter Olympics, the 2015 and 16 World Championships, and he won the European Championships 7 times. I got the feeling that you were molding another Brian Orser.
A lot of people commented on that had very similar styles. And it's, but the very first year we worked with him, there was a short program that was kind of a little soft, a little sort of jazzy, and it was very Brian Orser-esque. And which I'm flattered, because Javi looked great doing it. But Tracy and I, at the end of the day, we kind of said that he was our poster child for what we do. So he came on his own. He had no direction. He had no sense of what training was. He had no idea that it was actually not that hard. And he just needed to be organized. So we helped him be organized. We allowed him to be him. He was respectful. And once we gave him some direction, he was like, that's it. I'm like, yeah, that's it. It's pretty easy. You have a plan, you stick to your plan. We're going to push you. We're going to give you time off when you need to have time off. And we're going to have respect for each other. So, he did his own cooking, he did his own cleaning. He got himself to the rink every day. And he didn't have parents around him. So it was just him. And so he followed our program and he bought into it. And so then he became world champion and Olympic medalist. And we took him, it was an 8-year journey with him. So yes, he was talented, but he was a diamond in the rough. And that's the thing too about coaching, is that a lot of people were very critical of the fact that, so I become this big, well-known coach because of Una Kim. And Una Kim was already a junior world champion, and Una Kim was a great jumper. It's almost harder to take somebody who is that good to the next level. And if I screw that up, then I'm a bad coach. But right. It's like, but at that level, that really, really high level, and then you have to coach this person and continue to teach them and try to mold them. That's where that's a good coach, is be able to manage that. I'm not going to go for a ride here and have this girl that can jump and skate and be amazing and just ride that wave for the next 4 years. It is hard work. The same thing with Yuzu,
Well, I was just going to ask you about Yuzuru Hanyu. Your work's been incredible. You coached him to win the 2014 and 2018 Olympic gold medals, the 2014 and 2017 World Championship titles, and a whole bunch of other titles. He just got a bronze at the 2021 World Championships in Sweden. You must be so incredibly proud of him and of yourself for bringing him this far.
It's been quite a journey with Yuzuru, and he's his own person. He has a tremendous amount of pressure. He is really like a god in Japan. It's a different level. A lot of people would say he's a rock star, but it's not. It's a spiritual level. He affects people's lives. People cry when they are in his presence. He's got something that it's a gift, and I can't even put my finger on what it is exactly, but it's quite amazing to be around him, even on a training situation, or to be moving through a hotel lobby when he's trying to get to the door, to get to the bus, to get to the rink, and the fans that literally will sleep outside the rink till the doors open so that they can get a good seat to watch practice at a competition. They will camp out overnight, hundreds of these people. And that's the impact that he's had on skating and his fans. But it's been quite a journey, and it's been, he kind of marches to his own beat. And so I take a lot of the direction from him. And last week he was actually skating. He was skating quite well. It's good that he has a competitor like Nathan Chan. It's like my Brian Boitano. You need to have that to make yourself a better athlete and to be a better skater, a better competitor. So I'm not even one little bit concerned about next year. He will continue to work hard. Nathan is the 3-time world champion now. Yuzu's a 2-time Olympic champion. So, it's Olympics is a different beast compared to a world championship. I didn't get to see him all year. So I worked with him he would send me videos of his jumps and his run-throughs of his programs. And I would send back my comments, but that was it. I mean, that's for a year. I didn't get to see him. You know, you've got, you know, the kids in America all can skate with their coaches every day. The Russians were, it was like nothing happened over there. So they just skated every day and they trained every day and everything was, and they competed, you know, every other week. So I mean, Yuzu did a national championship and that was it. So I was proud of him that I was proud of us that we were able to manage some really good skating in this time, this kind of unusual time.
Yeah, coaching during the pandemic, I understand you've been doing it by Skype and by Zoom. I can't even imagine how difficult and challenging that is for both of you, you and the skater.
Yes, it's challenging, but then at the same time, there were some, you know, you learn some new things about teaching. You learn some things about communicating. So when you are trying to teach a jump, and I mean, you know, you skate over to the boards and there's somebody there with the phone and you've got the big screen TV there so you can see me, and I'm in my kitchen and I'm trying to walk through a quadruple toe loop, you know, and talking about the shoulder. Think about it, because I'm not on ice and I can't kind of walk through it with you on the ice. So it was challenging, but it was kind of interesting, and most of the time I really liked it, you know. And the thing is too, you know, Tracy and I do a lot of seminars most seasons. So if, say we go to Thailand and we do a seminar for a week, like do a camp, and we're kind of teaching our thing about what we do, like our philosophy on actual skating. And it's no, it's a lot of it's very slow movements, and the good ones will really pick up on it and understand what we're doing. So it's not out of the gate and race to the finish line. It's standing and gliding and twisting. But then we realized too with the Zoom that we can do follow-ups. You know, we can go there, do a camp, come home, 2 weeks later, do a class, do a whole class, an on-ice class with these kids where we can do a follow-up and follow up on exactly, are you doing it this way? Are you still feeling it this way? So it's doable. So that kind of went, aha, we can, because that's the thing about doing camps is that you go away and everything kind of goes to hell, you know?
Yeah. Brian, I want to ask you a little bit about your personal life. In 1998, the media disclosed that you were gay, and the impression that was created was that you were outed by an ex-partner in a lawsuit. Is that right?
Yeah, that's very accurate. Yes.
Why didn't you come out sooner? What were you afraid of?
You know, I don't think I was afraid of anything. I don't know. I mean, normally when these things happen, it's usually something in the media. And I had all these friends in the media who all knew I was gay. They were all, you know, good friends of mine. The guy from the Globe, the guy from the Toronto Star, you know, the guy from the Hamilton Spectator. They all knew I was gay, but not one of them. I mean, maybe it's just the politeness of Canadians that is like, it's not tabloids. This is not like, we're not going to talk about him being gay. We're going to talk about his long program, how great he was. And they didn't really care. So for me, I mean, I had a handful of friends who knew I was gay. So I never came out to my parents. My father later on, I came out to, and it was because of one of my messy separations from a partner that I needed my dad's advice. But I never came out to my mom, but she knew that I knew that she knew that I knew, kind of situation. So, you know, if I was going down to visit my parents in Florida and I was with I bring my boyfriend with me, it would be like, okay, you guys have that room and we'll have this room or whatever. So it was never, we just didn't have to talk about it. My mom wanted me to be happy. I was happy. So, but then when I was outed, my mom had passed away by then. And it was, you know, I was with somebody for 4 years and it kind of, you know, I guess he was heartbroken and decided that it was gonna come out to the media. Anyway, it did. And it was one of the greatest moments for me because I did a skating competition soon after that. And I stepped on the ice and I got a standing ovation. It was incredible. Yeah.
I think you were surprised by how much support you got.
I was surprised. I was never living a double life. I was never, out there talking about the girlfriends or anything. I just lived my life and skated the way I skated, and my private life was my private life, but it never sort of dawned on to me to come out. I don't know. And I lived in a small town, so maybe that was a bit of a challenge for me. And and then so I was outed, and it was perfectly fine. It was great. It was liberating. It was wonderful.
I don't know if you realize, but for those of us in the gay community, we know that your ex-partner thought he would be hurting you by outing you, but we were all so reinforced and validated when it didn't hurt you at all. No one cared. We all loved you. Everybody loved you, and it didn't matter. That was a very, very important thing for the community. I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but it was huge for us.
This time around, it was kind of, for me, about how I felt and the way I observed it, which was similar to the way you're mentioning it. And there was not one negative thing about any of this. And the intention was for me to be hurt by all of this. And it didn't. It just made me stronger. And it validated kind of my existence and how, and these, all those fans that stood up for me, it was like, oh my God, I'm like in the greatest country in the world right now.
Yeah, and I think for those people who were afraid that maybe they might be outed because they were living a secret life, they saw that Brian Orser didn't suffer because of it. Maybe they had nothing to be afraid of. It was a big moment, I got to tell you. And I should say, for your fans to know, you have gone on to have a very wonderful relationship with a wonderful spouse who I have the pleasure of knowing as well. I have to tell you, Brian, it was one of the proudest moments of my life when I got to officiate at your wedding on February the 11th, 2009.
I have great pictures of that day. And we did it right in your office, and it was on purpose that way too, because a lot of people were like, aren't you having a big wedding? And Raj and I met on a subway when we were in Korea. And he was there and I was there working with Una, and he saw me and I saw him, and we happened to get off at the same exit, and it was raining, so we started talking. And then he's like, well, hey, if you ever want to see more of Seoul, here's my card. And we kind of went separate directions then, but I kept his card and I called him a few weeks later because I had come back to Canada. And so and I was going back and forth to Korea all the time. So, we did see each other in Korea, and it just took off instantly. And then he made the decision to move. And then, so we took the subway up to your office and got married.
I asked this question of Olympic champion Greg Louganis, and I'm going to ask you, are things easier for gay and lesbian athletes now than they were when you were competing?
Simply, yes. Yes. And I think the world is accepting much better. I think it's, we have so many athletes that have come out, so they've pioneered that movement for all of, for the young athletes now. And so, back in the 80s, it was different. It was, did it have to be different? Maybe not, but it was different. It was what it was. So, but I think it's easier. I think it's easier now. I don't think it's ever easy. I don't think it's, whether it's gay or straight, it's never easy being a young person today. And I listened to some of the interview with Greg and some of the stuff about the bullying. And I went through a lot of that too in my little small town. And, you know, I remember the way I kind of got my head wrapped around it, because I had the same thing where at every recess and lunchtime at school, so I would say like maybe grade 6, this one guy, his name was Brian too, isn't that funny? And he would come and get me and pin me down for the whole 15-minute recess. He'd pin me down with the thing, or he'd be doing something with my eyes or pulling my head back or whatever it was. To the point where after doing this for a number of weeks, I thought to myself, what a shame for this guy. He's going to spend his entire recess pinning me down. Like, wouldn't you want to be playing ball with your friends, or, you know? So I felt sorry for him that he's putting his attention on me, and, you know, because I was a figure skater. And I thought, wow, what a waste of his time. Like, I wasn't worried about my time being wasted. I was like, this guy's wasting his time. What a poor guy, you know?
It's amazing you thought that way. In 1988, you wrote an autobiography called Orser, A Skater's Life, and you chronicled your incredible journey from the very beginning to the end of your Olympic career. Is there any chance you might write a sequel to the book to bring us up to the present?
Wow. I guess never say never. And I have been asked about doing this. I have done some books, you know, in Japan and in Korea and China, and, you know, it's more about statistics about, you know, about working with Yuzu or working with Yuna, and people want to hear that part of it. And, you know, they'll take some parts from the skater's life and some of my history and how I skated, like how I started skating, that stuff. But then, you know, they want to hear about Yuzu, or they want to hear about Yuna. So as far as me, and I don't know, I got to be careful, I think, you know. Yeah, because, you know, it has to be an honest book. And there have been people along the way that's pissed you off, and you think, you know, you have to be honest, and you're going to write things. So I got to be, if I'm going to write a book, I've got to be really ready to write a book and go off into the sunset. And, you know.
I hope you do. I really hope you do.
You do, eh?
I want to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about the Brian Orser Foundation?
Yeah, I did a camp up in Port Carling, which is where I happen to have a cottage. And then every year I would do, at the end of the camp, I would get most of the kids in the camp to volunteer their time, and we'd put on a little show for the community, and we'd raise some money for the Port Carling Figure Skating Club. So I actually just put together the Brian Orser Foundation for that. Because I'm seeing, you know, I see a lot of skaters, as I'm now coaching for a number of years, I see a lot of skaters that can't afford skating. They can't afford the costumes, or they can't afford to be at a certain school, or they can't, you know. And I would love to be able to set up some sort of scholarship. So to see somebody through to the Olympics, you know, to maybe a 4-year cycle, and get them to whatever they need to get through Olympics. And that would be something that I would be really interested in. So maybe as time moves on and I can slow down on the coaching part, I wouldn't mind sort of putting my energy towards that.
I have an idea.
Yay. Okay, let's do it.
If you write another book, the proceeds from the book could go to finance the foundation.
True. Yes. Why not?
You can think about it. Well, Brian, you were inducted as a member of the Order of Canada in 1986 when you were only 25 years old. In 1988, you were promoted to Officer of Canada, which is the most prestigious civilian Canadian award. You were inducted into the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame in 1988 and the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame in 1995, the World Figure Skating Hall of Fame in 2009. You won an Emmy Award for your performance in Carmen on Ice, the movie. And that's just a few of the honors you've received. You've hundreds of thousands of followers on social media all over the world. Do you really get, I mean, deep down inside you, do you get how monumental your life and career have been?
That's very kind of you.
No, I'm not making it up.
I don't know. I know you're not making it up, and I'm just really, really flattered. I'm very flattered, and I don't know. I just like doing what I'm doing. So whether we're making a movie, and I happen to get an Emmy, that's great. But I love the process, and it's not about getting an Emmy. It was never about being an Olympic champion. It was never about. I just love to skate, and I love to compete. Now I love coaching, and I love seeing these guys do well. And then if it happens to be that they win an Olympic gold medal, then they've won an Olympic gold medal. I mean, but I'm not out there trying to get as many gold medals as a coach as I possibly can. But it's been a fun ride, I have to say. It's been really fun and it's been rewarding. But my thing is about watching the kids and see them do well, and to let, when I see someone like Javier Fernandez become a world champion, a boy from Spain, you know, who would have thought a boy from Spain becoming a world champion in figure skating? That makes me so proud. When I see a little kid land their very first Axel jump, and there's so much enthusiasm, and so, you know, there's usually tears behind the boards, but it's usually the mom, because they've spent a lot of money on that Axel. And I see the kid just, you know, they're just so thrilled. There are milestones along the way that they reach that and you do it together, it's really, really incredible.
But when we look at you, you went from a skater to a competitor. You then became a professional performer, a real star, and then you reinvent yourself as the top coach in the world. You are an amazing example of someone who is intuitive about what you're good at, and then you do it.
Well, it's all things figure skating, isn't it? And in every aspect of it, I loved. And the one thing that you probably don't know about, but I was a judge for 8 years. So from the age of 16, which was the minimum age to start judging, to 26. I mean, I was preparing for the Olympics, but then on any day that I had either off or any downtime, I was running around the province of Ontario judging kids in their tests, and then judging competitions and volunteering, because it's all volunteer work. And I was, you know, going to a competition where I'd be announcing the names of the kids, and, you know, like, but I did a lot of judging. I loved the judging part of it, actually. And it gave me a really interesting perspective just by sitting, watching what these kids are doing. And so when I was the person out skating, I'm thinking, okay, what would I like to see? What do I do on a 6-minute warm-up to get my attention? Because I teach my kids now, you got to do something spectacular at the end of the 6-minute warm-up, because I want all 9 of those people watching you. So this is what we're going to do. I come up with some exercises where it's beautiful skating, beautiful, beautiful skating. And I will look over at the panel and I'll see all 9 of them following my skater, you know? That helps. My day as a judge, that helped me a lot with learning that.
Well, Brian, it's been such a thrill to sit down with you and reminisce about your spectacular accomplishments. You're an incredible inspiration and a role model. You're an ambassador for your sport. You're an exemplary ambassador for Canada. I'm so proud to be your fan and your friend, and I wish you every happiness and success in everything you do. Thank you so much, Brian, for being here.
Thank you, Harvey. You're great at this.
Thank you so
you're
much.
Really good. You know what? You've got a nice rapport with us on this side. So keep up the good work. And it was great to be with you.
Thank you so very much, Brian. Thank you to our producer, Steve Silver. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Be sure to check out more great interviews with Harvey Brownstone on harveybrownstoneInterviews.com.